Sword Saint, Dragon Knight, a brave hero, and the Grand Mage, a father expects his child to make their family proud by receiving qualities of heroes like their lineage has over the years. The brown-haired boy, Woody Conrad, held high expectations of everyone to inherit the title of Grand Mage like his father. With these expectations on his shoulder, Woody went to the skill-bestowing ceremony, where the high priest was about to reveal his abilities. He was expecting a grand power like his father, but fate has something else for him, so Woody ended up with the ability called tree planting. Woody's whole hole turned upside down because he received a skill for planting quality trees peacefully, which scattered the high hopes his father had from him. The stepmother of Woody didn't waste any time in criticizing his planting tree skills, and said the poor boy not only failed their expectations, but he couldn't even become a warrior and rubbed his family name into mud. Woody was frozen in place as he carefully glanced in his father's direction, and saw him just standing there with a grim look on his face. It was then Woody's younger stepbrother, Acid, passed him by and went to get his skill revelation, while calling Woody as a failed older brother. Woody couldn't say anything back to Acid, and right then Woody's father told him how much he was disappointed in him. However, Acid ended up receiving the skills of the Grand Mage, and everyone immediately acknowledged Acid with the same expectations they had with Woody before. Woody felt hopeless as the power he wished to inherit from his father was now inherited by that wicked Acid, seeing which Woody's father immediately went right past Woody and announced he was truly proud of his real son Acid, who inherited the will of his Conrad family. Woody wished to ask what about him, but Acid looked down upon Woody and showed him a middle finger to get away, because from today, Acid officially became the heir of the Conrad family. After some days, Woody was looking at the flowers he raised, but then a group of people came over and snatched the flower in his hand and crushed it. The evil one was none other than his brother Acid, who asked Conrad why he was still here. Acid burned the flowers, which were actually planted by Woody's mother, but Acid didn't give a care and called Woody a mama boy at the age of 15. He called it gross of him, and Woody tried to refute because those flowers were precious to him. Acid mocked Woody, saying his mother had been dead for ages, so he didn't have to keep any trash. One of the two maids accompanying Acid agreed with throwing away the garbage, while the other one seemed unsettled by Acid's behavior towards Woody. It was then Acid placed a finger on Woody's head to send him away with magic, but right then help came when the other maid, Ale, jumped to save Woody from Acid. Ale was determined enough to do anything to protect Woody, and she asked him if he was okay. Woody tried to alert her that she'll be punished for taking his side, and just as he said, Acid yelled, "How dare a mere maid intervene his actions?" He looked at the body of Ale with vile intentions, and decided to show off his power and have his way with her later to make the difference in standings clear. Woody stepped forward and told Acid to just stop, in return for which he was ready to go away to any place that Acid desired, but he must not hurt Ale. Woody's savior face only made Acid more pissed off, as he widened a grin and actually sent Woody along with that maid Ale to the desert with his magic. Woody apologized to Ale for dragging her into this. She didn't mind it because it was her own decision to get involved, and now that they were in this desert with scorching heat, Ale was keeping up while reassuring him it would be fine. But the already exhausted Woody couldn't help but wonder what were they going to do now in the middle of this desert. Ale saw him almost falling due to the excessive heat taking a toll on Woody, so she quickly used her water magic to ease his condition a little. She told him they at least won't have to worry about water, since she could produce water endlessly. Ale believed that she must have been bestowed the title of Water Mage for this day. Woody was truly thankful to have her, but suddenly he coughed because some sand got in his mouth. She provided him more water, and they moved to take shelter in the shadow of a rock. Woody recalls this desert used to be part of his father's territory, but it was abandoned by everyone because of the desert, so it serves no purpose now. Woody recalls him saying that he would go to the place Acid wanted to send him to, but he never expected that crazy guy would send him to the desert, under the meaningless reason of sending Woody to restore this land. Woody had a dull face, and Ale noticed he was losing it from the heat again, so she suggested they should both soak each other in water by bathing together to survive longer. But she then realized it might not be worth it to be heated under the sun while bathing. She pointed out there seems to be signs of some locals in the village, by the sight of dead skeletons, but even so, she hoped they could have something larger than rock to shield them from the sun temporarily. Woody took out sleeping bags and tents and table, along with a map from the magic bag, and he wasn't sure how much of help these things would be. He recalls the last memory of his father who gave Woody a map, then walked away without ever looking back at him. Woody wondered what his father was thinking at that time, and after he assessed the map for a bit, Woody decided to head to a place that somewhat seems to be a settlement, and along the way he could only hope to come across an oasis. Ale did her best trying to find an oasis, but then suggested why don't they just create one for themselves by using Woody's qualities. She was sure Woody was capable of it, but when she asked him if he thought it would be possible, Woody didn't think plants could grow in dry sand here. Woody could feel that acid must be mocking him even now for being useless, whether in family and or in the desert. Ale called him and said they must give it a try, and she would try to keep the plant alive with her water magic. Her optimism gave Woody hope, and he could feel her spirit behind her words, but then a thought came across: what if he failed here? He might end up disappointing Ale just like others. Then he felt it wasn't right of him to think like that for Ale, who stood by his side and came this far without abandoning her. He felt bad for doubting someone like her, and knew that even if he ended up embarrassed for failing her, she would still be there. So as her master, he can't let her die in this desert, so Woody decided to do his best for her sake to use his tree planting skill to the fullest. This was his second time planting a tree with this skill, but for him this time it was nothing else than a step towards a new life. But suddenly he heard the system telling him that he leveled up by planting the required number of trees. Whereas the tree he planted just now seemed to have legs instead of roots, and Ale was amazed by seeing a tree like that. Whereas Woody received an alert that with the level up, he would be able to plant more trees of higher qualities, so the system recommended him to raise his level. Woody was so confused by the voice of the system talking straight in his head, and Ale doesn't seem to hear anything. He wondered if it was normal for skills to talk, and with the level up, he received a new system of smile points, which seemed like something that would assist the tree planting quality. Woody thought he should be able to figure things out as he leveled up, and the first task was to find out how to raise the level. It was then the system informed him that he'll level up upon reaching a certain number of trees planted, and to plant more trees, Woody will need to spend smile points. Woody wondered what these smile points were, then the answer came from the system, that to accumulate smile points, he needed to make others smile, delight, or embarrass them, basically trigger any emotional changes. Woody saw a clear instruction with a diagram, showing him that making others smile will lead to smile points, then plant trees with points, then lastly level up. The system then showed him an example by asking him to hold Ale's hand and touch it gently, like handling something fragile, then look into her eyes closely and follow up words, that just like this tree, he wanted her to be full of energy, because he loved her. Woody said exactly all that, and in reaction, Ale was so flustered that she couldn't help but smile like an idiot, with her hands covering her cheeks. He gained 7 points from that, and the system informed him that points gained were high because he was also loved in return. Woody was glad that Ale was genuinely feeling happy, and he thought that even a useless person like him could make others smile, so he decided something and told Ale that even though it might be reckless of him to create an oasis, he wanted to create a place full of smiles and greenery with this tree planting skill, and convert this desert into a land where everyone could live happily without conflict or hunger, a place everyone could enjoy. Ale was glad after hearing that, which gained him 4 points. Meanwhile, in the household of Tristan family, a bird infiltrated their mansion and the family's heir, Nadja, was trying to chase away the bird from the tree she got as a gift from someone very important to her. The bird showed interest in this important person of hers, and he asked Nadja about this person who created this world tree. But the talking bird was unaware that asking about the creator of this tree was a very sensitive topic to bring up in front of Nadja, because she cherished Woody more than anyone else. She slammed fists into the tree to shake off the bird, and the shaking tree made the danger clear to the bird, who realized that he might have stepped on a landmine. Nadja unexpectedly got sad because Woody promised to marry her, but he disappeared. The talking bird tried to calm her down, so he could ask her about Woody, but Nadja didn't want that bird to come close to that tree. She unsheathed her sword and declared as the sword saint that she won't let a bird disturb her. She launched a slash towards the bird, and he got off the branch to save his life, while she was planning to kill him, considering him a monster bird. However, in the next moment, that bird asked her to sheath her sword because he was neither a beast nor a monstrous bird, but a divine bird who cannot be slayed even by the gods. Nadja was dazzled because she was sure that her sword struck the bird, which means this bird was surely not ordinary, and it seemed that this divine bird referred to this tree as the world tree, which she thought was a mere legend. The divine bird, named Simurg, stated it was no wonder she was surprised, because a divine bird like him rarely reveals themselves to humans. However, before speaking anything else, Simurg asked her for the name of the one who sent this world tree to the sword saint Nadja. Nadja could see that this bird acknowledges Woody's talent, and praised him for having a keen eye as expected of a divine bird. She told Simurg that no one ever recognized Woody, no matter what she said, so it meant a lot to her that a divine bird acknowledged him. She told him the name of the one who gifted her this tree was Woody, and he was her fiancé, a person with gentle light in his eyes, just like this world tree. But right now she felt caged after Woody disappeared, whereas Simurgh just heard the name of Woody and was setting off to find him. Nadja stopped him and asked if he was really going to Woody, to which Simurgh nodded and claimed it was his role to protect the creator of world trees. Nadja didn't get why that was, but she asked him where he was. However, even Simurgh didn't know his whereabouts, leaving Nadja frozen by this divine beast's stupidity. Simurgh asked her if she knew, to which she replied if she had known, she would have dashed over there already. But as far as she knew, Woody wasn't at the Conrad family's estate, and no matter who she asked, she was ignored even by her father. They were all acting as if Woody never existed at all, just because his talent was different. She recalls the time when Woody was hurted by his brother, and those people were only after his talent. Nadja personally thought of him as a strong person even without his skills, and the reason for admiration for Woody was because he was very honest and a kind guy with no room for hatred for others. He always treated Nadja for who she was, not as a sword saint, which was shy. She would never allow for his existence to be erased at all. Suddenly, Simurgh sensed a wave of another world tree being created somewhere, and he asked Nadja if she would like to fly with him as well. She didn't hesitate to take this chance and join Simurgh so she could meet Woody and confess some things she wished she could have done before. She thanked Simurgh for taking her along, and right here and now, she left her family along with the surname and became only Nadja, to start off a new adventure being herself. Meanwhile, Woody was somewhat walking through the desert storms along with Ale, and they both had smiles on their faces because they were being protected by the barrier casted by the world tree. Ale thought every family should have a handy tree like this, since it had so many amazing abilities. Ale also dreamed if she were to sell this tree, she might be able to make a fortune for sure. Woody was also glad with the world tree, even though he was unaware of it, since he won't have to worry about getting drenched in sudden rain or having to hide from desert storms. He wondered if he could really become rich from selling it. Just then, Nadja pointed out the sun was about to set, so they should call it a night. Woody agreed with her and decided to place his and Nadja's tree in a line, while he also planted a third tree in a spot. And unexpectedly, all the trees combined the barrier and the space they could relax in. Nadja was glad she won't have to worry about rolling over in her sleep now, and just like this, she and Woody spent 3 days in this desert with him, ending up planting about 12 trees until now. He recalls when he first arrived, despair was all he knew, but now thanks to this tree's barrier, they both have managed to come this far. Woody's level also raised to 3, which allowed him to change the shape of trees and replant them somewhere else. The planting of trees still required the points earned by making people smile, so he didn't have to worry about that part. Then he saw some monsters in the distance, and those seemed to be dangerous desert monsters. Woody was worried because he didn't have any offensive magic, but in the next moment, those desert monsters retreated for some reason. Ale asked if they should chase them down, but Woody told her not to provoke them and leave them be. He came to realize that this barrier around them might have repelled those monsters as well, and now that it was confirmed, he was relieved that they could take a break without any worries. Ale prepared some warm water for Woody since the desert gets very cold at night, and things were now starting to feel like his daily routine. Woody would keep praising Ale and appreciate her help, which would make her happy and gain him more points. Woody gained 6 points without even realizing it, and thanks to Ale, he thought he could plant more trees. Now Woody saw that he needed to plant 3 more trees to level up, so according to 4 points cost per tree, he needed a total of 12 points to level up. He currently had 7 points and needed 5 more. Then the system asked if it should suggest ways to make smiles, but Woody was okay for now, since he wanted to make Ale happy genuinely, not for the sake of just points. He believes that smiles born naturally hold the most value, and speaking of which, he wanted to check the history of his past earnings. The system showed him earnings of the past, from which he saw most of the points earning was either 6 or 7 points, except for one with 4 points. He recalled those points were from the time he conveyed his dream to make a place where everyone can enjoy. After that, Woody remembered when he asked Ale about how his territory plan was. She ended up fainting because hearing of Woody liking her was too much to process for her. Woody didn't expect it to affect her so much that she fainted from happiness. Woody now remembers that the amount of points should be more for naturally earned ways. It was then 2 shadows appeared above him, and one of the falling shadows belonged to Nadja, as she called out Woody and stated she came here for him out of stubbornness. Meanwhile, in the Conrad family's house, Acid was pissed off after hearing that Nadja had disappeared, and he quickly retrieved the letter from Tristan family to read its contents written straight by Nadja, declaring that she'd rather abandon her family name than marry someone she doesn't love. Acid smirked and figured he shouldn't just let a strong woman like her do as she pleases and go against his order, so he tore the letter to pieces while determining that he would surely find her and tear her pride to pieces. In the past, when Woody's powers didn't turn out to be what was expected, he had left an apology for Nadja, saying even if they got close, he can't be her fiancé anymore. And in the end, he could only give her a tree, while praying for her happiness through this tree. Nadja refused to accept things as it was, so now she held on to her stubbornness and finally met Woody even in this desert. Woody was startled at first when he saw Nadja here, while she straight up hugged him and admitted that she missed him a lot. She couldn't believe her eyes to have met him again, where on the other hand, Ale was making a scary face because her alone time with Woody was disturbed. Ale called out Nadja as former fiancé and asked her what brought her here as she was no longer Woody's fiancé. She also mentioned that Woody did say goodbye to her before the departure as well. Nadja asked Ale what about her, and how come the head maid for the family was here in the desert. Ale replied straight up that she wasn't a maid anymore and slammed down her job immediately to follow Woody. She refused to work in a place that didn't undertake Woody, hearing which, Woody was left surprised because he worried about how he should pay her wages now. Ale smiled and assured him that his feelings were enough for her, and moreover she was already prepared for the consequences when she took his side. Woody was still worried about how to compensate for her work now. Then the obsessed Ale suggested she could add the wages with a tab, and was fine with settling her debts in any form. The scary glittering eyes of Ale worried Woody as he realized that he might have made a terrible debt now. Whereas Nadja came and praised that Ale has a keen eye for a maid, and she claimed to be just like Ale, as she also left behind her name and status. Woody was surprised and asked why she would do that. Just then Nadja placed a finger on his lips and said she was being too much by asking that, while she only realized what she truly needed after losing him. She told Woody that he would always be her fiancé, and her being so close was making Woody's heart race rapidly. Then the divine bird Simurg, who was waiting up in the sky, approached Woody and remarked he was quite a handsome one, but Woody and Ale were left shocked at the sight of a monster bird coming so close to them. And moreover, it was a giant talking bird, so Ale doubted it could be dangerous as it broke into the barrier. Simurg desperately explained himself that he had no ill intent, and he was not a monstrous bird, but a divine bird named Simurg. Woody had heard them legends of the divine beast, and if that was true, the Simurg's existence was a huge discovery. However, Woody could sense a certain aura but can't tell if it was a scam or a smooth-talking high-level monster. Then Nadja told Woody that Simurg was a good bird, and he was also the one who brought her here as well. Woody and Ale found that reasoning quite weak, and Ale told her that she might have been fooled by a bird. Nadja spoke in a cold tone that she would never bring a monster to Woody, and this kind of created a heated battle for Woody. He calmed down both of them and apologized to the self-proclaimed divine bird for the noise. Simurg broke into tears after hearing that, and Woody asked him why was a divine beast with Nadja. Simurg replied the answer was simple, that he came to meet the creator of the world tree, Woody. Woody couldn't believe this tree he planted was the world tree, and out of nowhere, the world tree started glowing brightly. Simurg was astonished at the sight and saw the tree bearing a fruit, which he now went by the name of the Fruit of Miracles, the legendary fruit of the world tree. Woody and others kept looking at the fruit, and Nadja asked what this miraculous world tree fruit was. She did admit the fruit had an unusual shape and shines like gold, while Simurg was tearing up after seeing that nobody, not even Woody, understood the true value of this fruit at all. Woody mentioned he had heard of the world tree, but he was lost about what this fruit was. Simurg claimed he would share the knowledge in that case, and explained to everyone that the world tree fruit was the ultimate fruit, worth more than any gold. The flavor of the fruit surpassed all culinary delights and was packed with universal nutrients, and just one bite of it could heal ailments and even preserve eternal youth and beauty. Simurg also heard that over the centuries, the world tree was traded for more value than just gold in the world. Nadja and Ale didn't doubt people would be willing to pay a fortune because it provides eternal youth and beauty. Simurg added that it was popular among the divine beasts as well, so others may come after it too, hearing which, Woody was excited that he might get to see the divine wolves like Fenrir and the divine bird Phoenix in the future then. But then Ale asked Woody what should they do now, because apparently they have already eaten several of the fruits without knowing anything about it. Nadja asked him how he could eat a suspicious fruit like that, to which he replied they couldn't help it, because they were hungry. Nadja told him to stay alert, because it would be trouble if he got sick out here in the middle of the desert. Suddenly, Nadja was about to collapse and Woody caught her before she did. He asked if she was alright, to which Nadja replied it was fine, and she was just a bit tired because she had been searching for him through the desert during that sandstorm. She told him they need to relocate quickly before another storm comes, and on top of it, she claimed to have forgotten about eating or drinking anything for 2 days. Woody didn't expect her to be so devoted, and he immediately plucked one fruit and gave it to her, saying he had already confirmed this fruit was safe and she should have it. Neja asked if it was really okay, since Simurgh said it was worth more than gold. Woody replied that it doesn't matter, and more importantly, he wanted Neja to try this fruit as well, since it was incredibly delicious and energizing. Neja was happy to hear that and thanked Woody for the fruit. She felt nothing wrong about choosing to stand by his side, which made her happy. This earned Woody 3 smile points, and the fruit was so delicious, along with the soft texture and an overwhelming sweetness and flavor. She could feel the ultimate taste of fruit and sense an overwhelming bliss from it. Woody smiled and said that one piece was enough to fill up surprisingly well. Simurgh stated it was obviously because this fruit was a bundle of life energy, which made Aile realize it must have been the reason why she and Woody were so healthy and energetic here. Not just that, Woody also figured it also provides a barrier protecting them. Neja didn't know about it, and then she noticed that she hadn't been hit by sand since coming down. Woody told her it was the effect of the barrier, and this tree offers them protection. Then Simurgh proudly claimed that the power of the World Tree was far beyond that, since the World Tree creates a sanctuary around its presence and brings abundance and purification to the area. He explained that abundance means it will flourish the crops, and purification means it would also cleanse the taint from the land, all while keeping the monsters away. Woody recalls how the monsters turned away from coming closer to them, and it was unbelievable this barrier was actually a sanctuary. He figured this tree was incredibly powerful despite being so small. Then Simurgh told him the incredible one was Woody, for creating such a wondrous world tree. Neja teased that tree planting skill of his must be more than just a skill, and he said that was a bit of an exaggeration. Simurgh immediately proposed a trade regarding the world tree, and said that he would provide his power to instantly maximize the growth of the world tree if Woody were to add his protection. Woody asked if he could really do that, to which Simurgh replied it was obvious since he was a divine beast, so all Woody had to do was to pick an ideal location and request his protection. And in return for that protection, Simurgh demanded one piece of the world tree fruit each day. Woody had an astonished face, which made Simurgh nervously thinking that he might have asked too much. But Woody simply opened the bag and said he could have as many fruits as he wanted, since he had plenty of trees which produced fruit daily. Woody's storage bag was filled with many fruits, and he even gave one to Simurgh to try. Simurgh was shocked because this many world trees and fruits were seriously beyond the norm. Simurgh remarked that no matter how odd the world works, it was just incomprehensible of Woody to create so many world trees. But Woody was still like he could grow more world trees like 4 in a day, and just thinking about it gave Simurgh a headache, because if they recklessly increased the number of trees now, then they might face issues in the next few centuries. So Simurgh was out looking for a proper location to set his sanctuary in this desert, and soon his eyes fell on something. Meanwhile, Woody reached level 4 and gained more new trees to plant. Aile and Neja seemed glad with his progress, and Woody claimed he could now harvest more fruits in a day. Neja mentioned Simurgh's reaction of being overjoyed and cheering from the taste of fruit. Woody wondered if Simurgh found any village from the map, and he was glad they could now explore from the sky, thanks to Neja bringing Simurgh. Neja gave off a chuckle aimed at Aile, and Aile mentioned she was also doing her part to ensure Woody doesn't dry out with her water magic every day. Woody thanked both of them, since it was thanks to their help that he could smile now. Aile and Neja smiled upon being thanked, and it gained him 6 points. Woody was glad that points had increased since their party has now become a trio, and now he planned on planting the newly unlocked trees. Woody was surprised there were many options to plant from, and he didn't think before that he would be able to plant anything other than world trees. These were all fruit trees, and he decided to try planting one while they waited for Simurgh. He called out Aile and Neja and asked them to watch as he tried planting an apple tree. After Woody chose an apple tree, the plant instantly sprouted, and the outer two found it cute for the plant to grow so quickly. Aile pointed out this one seemed different from the world tree, to which he replied it was an apple tree, and right now it looks small, but it will surely bear delicious fruit as it grows. Aile and Neja couldn't wait to try it soon, and their reactions gave Woody a guess of how much they were enchanted by the world tree fruits. Now he planned on also growing peach and pear trees, and creating an orchard as soon as the sanctuary was ready. Aile mentioned it might be unusual for an apple tree to thrive in sand, since it was different from the world tree, and Woody agreed with that, and decided to keep the apple tree with him until he found a good spot. Soon, Simurgh returned and he called out Woody's name in hurry while asking him to hurry up as well. Woody asked him what was up, to which Simurgh only replied he will understand once he follows there. Aile hoped Simurgh would tell him first, But Samur had to follow many rules as a divine beast, one being that a divine beast can't interfere with the living world too much, and all they could do was offer advice and guide Lord Woody and his friends. Naja understood that was basically being an observer, and Samur simply guided them until Woody saw the figures of two people lying on the desert. It seemed really bad, so Ale and Naja quickly went to check for pulses, and they were barely alive. Naja heard one of them saying they had an empty stomach, and the other one asked them if they were adventurers. Woody hasn't faced situations like this before, and now he did. He couldn't move his legs to help those in trouble. Then he got an idea and shared the world tree fruit with those guys, seeing which they got really hopeful, but worried if it was really okay to eat Woody's precious food, as this was a desert where food was scarce. Woody assured them they could eat without worrying about anything, and Naja guaranteed them they would like it for sure. They tried the fruit, and right in the next instant, they felt extremely energized and relaxed with a healthy body, as if they were never starving to begin with. They felt so good and full of energy, as if they just had a feast, and Ale was happy to see that. Woody was also glad he could help people with his tree planting skill, and those desert dwellers remarked having felt more vitality than when they left the village. They thanked Woody for saving their lives. Then Woody inquired their village was somewhere nearby, but upon hearing that, those guys became sad, because the current state of their village was in terrible ruin, so bad that it was hardly a village at all. Everyone there was collapsing from hunger, and when these two couldn't stand the hunger anymore, they even set out to chase a small monster outside the village and ended up here. They realized that chasing it was a reckless move. Naja mentioned it seems worse than they imagined, and Woody was up to help those people needing it. So he told those two to guide him to their village, and he would share his fruits with everyone there. The desert dwellers, Dan and Meg, started to believe that God might not have abandoned them after all. Meanwhile, in the village of Dan and Meg, the villagers were barely surviving under the scorching heat of the sun, and the village chief Shukri had to see the pale faces of the children starving from hunger. The innocent children asked him why God doesn't give everyone food and water, but Shukri had no reply other than saying that God might have been defeated by monsters and left people like them helpless. After arriving at the village, Naja and Ale were left worried by the sight of the almost destroyed village. Nina and Meg were really thankful for Woody coming all the way here, and he didn't mind it since they should help each other in times of trouble. He decided to quickly greet the village chief, and right then, the village chief came himself with a sword placed, and all of the villagers were scared while they looked at the new intruders. The children stayed in their hut, and the elders were helpless to provide any support to Shukri. But their village chief was still standing strong for everyone's sake, and he warned the intruders to go back or they'll be cut down. Woody and Ale were frozen in place by this kind of welcome, but right next second, Shukri got completely depleted and was about to collapse right there. His children and the villagers quickly ran to help him, but Shukri somehow managed to keep standing and told everyone to stay back. It was then Shukri heard familiar voices of Dan and Meg as they informed him that these were good people and they were the ones who brought them here. Shukri asked them why they were outside the village, for which they apologized, but they had to leave because they were so hungry that they even went on to take on a little monster. But they were wrong in doing so, and if it hadn't been for Woody and his friends, they might have never returned here. Shukri said sorry to Woody for his rudeness and thanked them for helping their friend in danger. Woody told him not to worry about it, as they just shared some food. Woody was actually quite startled before, but now he was glad the misunderstanding was cleared up, and the person before him was surely a good village chief who cares about his people so much that he stood to protect them. Woody glanced at the condition of people in the back, and everyone was so thin and lifeless that they were barely alive solely on willpower. Shukri welcomed Woody and wished to relay for helping his friend, but he couldn't help it since there wasn't anything in their village. Naja and Ale assured him they weren't here for gratitude, and it was Woody who just did what he could for the person right in front of them. Ale praised Woody for being selfless in that condition. Then Woody told the village chief that he came here because they wanted to help people from the village. Shukri didn't expect one would help out in a merciless desert like this. Then Woody handed him some world tree fruits like a treat and asked everyone to enjoy it. The starving people of the village had questions about this fruit, but from the smell they couldn't help but gather around to try it. All the villagers tried the fruits, and within a few seconds, they felt like some divine blessing fell upon them through the delicious fruit, which could be thought as if it came from heaven. Shukri even thought he was in heaven and would be seeing his grandma anytime soon. Woody requested him to stay conscious, and Naja mentioned she could understand that feeling Shukri must be feeling from the heavenly taste of the fruit. Shukri's children went to tell him they were feeling all energized now, and the smile on their healthy faces brought Shukri to tears of joy. He thought he might never see that face again, and the children called him a crybaby for being like that. Woody was truly satisfied by this result, and later Shukri told him about their village being filled mostly with old people and kids, while the only young men left here were Dan, Meg, and the village chief. Naja asked him if something happened in this village, and Shukri replied that in deserts, fights over scarce water and food never cease, and just because of that, Shukri and others also lost their battle to survive, which ended up killing their young ones. Ale questioned how people could kill other people like this, even when they were all desert folks. Then Shukri said that even if they call themselves desert dwellers, their origins were diverse, and many here have fled heavy taxes and conscriptions from other lands to become refugees here. On top of that, this desert was teeming with monsters, making it more risky for anyone to pursue any path. So in short, they weren't pure desert people, and Naja could see why these guys must have escaped here. Woody has also heard about the desert monsters, which have their own ways to hunt humans, and moreover, this land was so barren that there were no signs of greenery anywhere, so even growing plants here was out of options. So for all the reasons like monsters, hindering tax collection, both the country and his father have abandoned governance of this place. Woody could truly feel the pain of the village chief, but he had no idea how to approach this situation. He assessed that since this land was one of the territories of his father, Woody's father must be the one who was forcing people into the army and forcing high taxes on those who opposed him. And because of it, everyone was suffering and ended up being cornered in such a dangerous place. He can't believe they were just turning a blind eye to everything. And they even sent Woody here for the same reason, because he was of no use to them. Later that night, Ale and Naja were helping out people, while Woody stared at the breathtaking sight of the starlit sky. He felt that he must understand the current state of this territory, and even if his father couldn't see it, he wanted to watch over this place and become a helping hand to the people living here. It was then that Woody got called out by Simmer, who asked him if he had made up his mind about that. There was determination in his eyes as Woody walked towards the village chief Shukri and said that he wants to create a gentle world, where no one suffers and lives happily. Shukri was listening to Woody's words, as Woody told him his name, and also that he was a nobleman. Shukri heard Woody saying that nobles should prioritize the welfare of their people, and he believed they must not hesitate in their efforts to ensure it. And after seeing the reality of this land, Woody felt truly ashamed and deeply sorry, because he didn't know about the situation here, and now he wanted to start changing their village, so that everyone can keep smiling today, tomorrow, and forever. And for that, he promised to transform this place into a land of abundance, and Woody requested if he manages to make it all true, he wanted the territory to be governed by him, so he could support all the villagers and people who live here. Shukri shared these words of Woody to other villagers, and Dan and Meg were talking about it. Dan thought that Woody must have been exhausted from the desert heat, and since it gets cooler at night, Woody would surely come to his senses by morning. Meg nodded and went to sleep, knowing full well that the desert sand was merciless, and here all lives were trapped in like an antlion pit. However, the very next morning, by the time she woke up, she found a flying leaf landing on her nose, and Dan ran towards her to inform her that their breakfast would be filled with various fruits that he harvested with his own hands. Meg thought this must be a dream followed by the fruit she ate yesterday, but Dan pinched her cheek to bring her to senses. She went outside in the village and saw for herself the sight of villagers happily walking around and plucking the fruit straight from thriving trees and enjoying them all together with smiles on their faces. Ale and Naja were also among them and playing with the children, and the children planned on eating the fruits they have first, then going on harvesting more later. Meg was happily running somewhere, and she greeted Woody and the village chief. They greeted her back good morning, while she asked them confusedly what on earth was happening here. She told Dan he should have woken her up if things were like this. Then Shukri mentioned Dan, saying that they should let her sleep properly because she couldn't sleep well before. Dan said it wasn't like that, and he just wanted to harvest fruits with Ale and Naja. Meg felt somewhat angry and told him in a cold voice he was free to do it now, which ended up making Dan regret his excuse. Meg walked away with Dan trying to follow her while explaining things, whereas Woody hoped those two would be okay. Shukri told him if they would be fine, and the whole village seems to be bursting with color now. And realistically speaking, Shukri never imagined that such a big tree would sprout in the heart of the desert overnight, like a dream. Woody was glad that the villagers' main issue of hunger was solved by planting the fruit trees here within the land protected by the barrier of world trees, which was also the reason why the fruit trees could grow here so well. He also feels like the villagers somehow also helped in all of this through the smile points he gained by making them laugh, and without even realizing he ended up with many piled up points. So Woody just feels like he returned the efforts of villages as gifts in the form of these trees, which couldn't have been possible alone. Then Ale and Naja called out Woody and told him all the fruits were delicious as said by villagers, and Woody thanked them for helping distribute the fruits. Naja mentioned the fruits were not only satisfying hunger but also hydrating their bodies. Woody was glad that these fruits had nutrients which perfectly fulfilled the bodies of villagers, and figured if this keeps going on like this, he would eventually be able to trade fruits for other necessary items. He wanted to fulfill the promise he made to Shukri, of transforming this place into a land of abundance, and now this place he created was a proper home for everyone in the village. It was then Shukri asked Woody if all of this was the power of his skill, in response to which Woody replied honestly it was, and he planted all these trees efficiently with its help. Shukri smiled with a hint of sadness in it as he said that the gift of skill was a special power only granted to nobles, which kind of made him despite nobles, because no matter how great their power was, they use it solely for their own greed and see other ordinary people as nothing but a resource to exploit. But to Shukri, Woody seems a bit different because he saved their lives in this forsaken place when no one else would. He mentioned being truly amazed at first when he heard Woody saying he would transform this land into a fertile paradise, and that time, it wasn't that he doubted his ability, but something in Woody's eyes showed him a glimpse at the future of abundance. He got down on his knees to declare that now that Woody has fulfilled his promise, Shukri will recognize this land as the territory of Woody. Shukri also felt truly indebted to him for saving their lives against all odds, and this was the unanimous will of all villagers. Woody can feel everyone's warm gratitude and the greater expectations for abundance entrusted to him. Woody didn't waver to take this weight of having a territory upon himself, and held Shukri's hand to assure that he would keep walking this road to abundance for their sake. Shukri also smiled and shook Woody's hand in return, showing his support for him. It was then Simur showed up in front of everyone, and the villagers were surprised by the sight of a gigantic bird randomly appearing here. Simur was here to meet Woody, and Woody understood the purpose of him coming here, so he declared to choose this place as the sanctuary and requested the divine bird Simur to make this a place for everyone to thrive. Simur heard Woody's request loud and clear, and accepted it without any doubt. He used his divine powers to maximize the growth of all the world's trees, and in an instant many leaves, branches, and green grasses spread throughout the whole village, and even a spring was formed in the middle. The villagers couldn't believe their eyes as they saw the whole village transforming beyond recognizable right in front of their eyes, like a fairy tale. The children were excited when they saw the spring in the middle of the village, and the most surprised one amongst villagers was Shukri, who couldn't help but think that they might have been picked up by someone far more outrageous than they ever imagined. Meanwhile, at that time, a leaf from the village flew in the air, and it ended up in the hands of a desert dweller, who immediately ran all the way back to his boss sitting in a cave. The boss asked if he saw a giant sandworm or something, but the startled bandit told him it was no joke that he caught a leaf which flew over here. The boss of bandits knew how big of a deal it was to find a leaf like this in the middle of this desert, and it was so amusing that he ordered all the other bandits they were heading out right away to make the place where this leaf came from belong to them. Later on, Woody named this village as Wenti, named after the word bounty, and the villagers very much liked the grand name of it. The elder folks of the village expressed their gratitude to Woody, but then an old man told everyone that they should call Woody as the Lord of Wenti. The villagers accepted it right away and bowed down to show their respect for him, but Woody requested them to just call him Woody, and for now, he increased the number of fruit trees so they could eat as much as they want. Ale took the liberty to prepare a good feast of fruits for everyone, and Naja asked Woody to take a little break for now. She mentioned that harvesting has become a little tough with so many trees, and Woody's claimed there were around 24 trees here now, and thanks to the effects of Sanctuary, they also got a splendid orchard for themselves. He assessed that each tree yields around 5 fruits per hour, so no villager would need to worry about food shortage anymore. Neja added that even while they sleep, the trees keep producing more fruits which lead them to have more than what they could eat. Then Simur came and also took an apple tree for himself, while praising its taste that was on par with the fruit of the world tree. He smiled and claimed it was truly worth making a sanctuary, but with the rapid growth of fruits, they might have to take more help in harvesting the fruits. Woody agreed to that, and on top of which, even the world tree bears 1 fruit a day, which made him think it must be how tree planting might work normally. Simurg somewhat fell off the norm here. Then Woody mentioned he got something to show Simurg and asked him to come along for a moment. Simurg followed him, and he was concerned after seeing a withering tree in the desert. Woody told him that it was the apple tree that he planted outside the sanctuary last night, and even if it was growing well at first, it grew overnight. Naja, who also observed this, stated it must be the effects of sanctuary that were limited within the barrier, and any trees inside it will keep thriving. Woody agreed with that, and said that without the effects of sanctuary, even his extraordinary trees will require water to survive. Although the world tree seems to be a bit of an exception since it grows just about anywhere, Seimer guessed it was important they should try various things for the future, and he mentioned having a gift for Woody. Seimer gave Woody some monster meat, which was very valuable to have in the desert, and Woody was overwhelmed to try it soon. Naja was also pleased by the sight of meat, while Woody asked Seimer if it was alright for him to give something so precious to him. Seimer claimed it was just a tiny bit compared to the value of the world tree fruit, and he felt like just protecting the sanctuary was not good enough when he was being paid with one world tree fruit each day. So he offered to give monster meat and materials he would find from now on too. Naja stated it sounds like they have already started some trading, and Woody agreed if more people learn about this place, they would surely be able to sell fruits or trade for the things they lack right now. Woody had no doubt they could create a win-win relationship with traders from that perspective, and he thanked Seimer for trading meat with him. Seimer was glad to hear that, but he warned Woody to be cautious, because there weren't only monsters with glinting eyes in the dry desert, and this Wenti village was currently the prime target for any raiders. Woody understood what Seimer was trying to say, and then he got back to planting again. Soon he managed to level up once more and reach level 5, which unlocked a new plant breeding skill. Woody was startled by an unexpected level up, and Ale came running after hearing his voice. He just replied being startled by the level up, and asked her to check out new trees he planted. They were persimmon and chestnut trees, and Woody figured they could eat persimmons raw as it is, and Ale added that as for chestnuts, they will need to collect them in a bunch, and then roast them before using them in anything. However, she didn't have any materials right now, so Ale said they could only roast and eat them just like that for now. Woody was excited to try them out soon, and now the only type of tree he hadn't planted was a mulberry tree. It was then he noticed there were more types of trees to be planted now that he leveled up, and he wondered what type of fruit it would be this time. However, this time the options for trees he could plant were magic trees, like fire tree, light tree, wind, water and earth tree, along with grape tree and house tree as well. Woody could make sense out of the water tree, but for the others he was very confused because he didn't think there was anything like house tree and light tree out there anywhere else in the world. He was curious about trying them out, but if he planted them now, everyone in the village might be scared. So Woody planned on putting it on hold for now and checking out what else he got from level up. Now he checked out the breeding skill, which would basically allow him to customize a tree, and when Seimer heard about it, he explained to Woody that it was a feature of the Sacred Realm, which means that the restrictions on Woody's ability were lifted. Woody asked Seimer to explain it more simply, to which Seimer replied that in simple words, the world tree usually absorbs magical energy to unleash various powers, and now after level up, the amount of magic the world tree will use was up to Woody within the sanctuary. Woody was amazed because there were already enough things here, so he asked Seimer if there was anything else to do, and just when Seimer was about to suggest something to him, Dan and Meg came running to alert Woody about something terrible happening. Woody asked them to calm down and tell him what happened, and Dan told him that they were sure that they saw the desert bandits approaching this village. Shukri and Woody were warned after hearing that, and Naja went to observe the boundaries from the height of walls. She saw the coming bandits and came down to alert Woody about them, but at the same time she assured him that she could take care of them alone. Woody was about to say something, but Naja told him beforehand to not show mercy to those bandits, because the moment he showed mercy to them, they were sure to raid the village by any means and hurt the villagers. She told him to understand that once a person crosses that line of hurting people, they can no longer live a decent life. But Woody was still not convinced to just kill those bandits, and he told her that if possible, they should avoid killing them, as they might have a larger organization behind them which will send more bandits if they kill them like that. So first she ordered her to only capture the desert bandits and hear what they have to say. Woody made it clear to Naja that he will need her strength to handle this matter peacefully. Meanwhile, the desert bandits' boss was left astounded when they discovered the Wenti village, which was overflowing with greenery, and it instantly became their target. The other bandits can't help but think about delicious food when they smelled the sweet scent in the air, and they thought that the village must have gotten some passing by the merchant's help to build all that. But their boss didn't care about any reason and declared he would take it all for himself now. One of the bandits showed his worry that they might come across an adventurer there, and the boss asked him in anger if he thought they would lose despite being so many in numbers. The bandit quickly changed his mind, and the boss told them not to even think about chickening now that they'd come this far. The cowardly bandit claimed he was just kidding. But inside, he was really scared and hoped they would be fine, just like how it has been whenever they followed their boss. He decided to put all his faith into the boss and follow his decision no matter what to survive in these deserts. However, bandits were unaware that they had already been ambushed by the Sword Saint from behind, and she was here to crush their goal to conquer the village right here. The bandits suffered the wrath of her sword, and she defeated pretty much everyone within a few seconds. All the bandits fell down helplessly, and Naja called them vile greedy bandits, as she warned them not to dare come Woody's wish to create a gentle world. The boss of bandits was about to surrender, but she didn't hold back in punishing him. And after all those slashes, she just called it a warning shot. The bandits were defeated by her, and after that, they were taken captive to the village, where the bandits saw so many fruit trees that it was hard to believe this was all real. The boss of bandits looked at Woody, who was thanking Naja for capturing them without killing. She remarked it was really easy since she was a sword saint, and the bandits now realized their mistake for targeting a place protected by the sword saint. The coward bandit was the first one to fall hopeless, and the boss told him not to let a weak-looking girl intimidate them. Next, Naja told the bandits to stop causing trouble, but their boss shouted at her not to give him orders. Naja was getting angry from that attitude, but Woody calmed her down and said he will handle the taking. The boss glared at him and asked what was his problem, as Woody went to him with unwavering eyes and announced he was Woody Conrad, the lord of this village. The boss didn't expect this place was under a noble, and Woody made it clear that he restrained them only to protect this village. He expressed that he wanted to avoid conflict as much as possible, but before anything else, he provided bandits some chestnuts to eat since they must be hungry. It was hard to say whom the bandits called delicious, ale, or chestnuts, but in any case their boss glared at them for being swayed so easily. The boss of bandits said whatever Woody said was sounding like a typical rich kid's words, and declared that he won't be controlled by a kid like him. Woody didn't know how to tackle this situation, which made him sad, while the bandits' boss asked if he really thought that the food was enough to convince people like them, who came here to plunder everything from this village. The boss made it clear he won't be satisfied with just scraps and taking it all for himself. The cowardly bandit asked the boss to be careful with his words, as they might cut them down, but the boss called them fools for thinking they were lying and trying to bluff, so they wouldn't get them killed later. So right from the beginning, the boss of bandits made it clear to Woody that in the desert, it was a life or death situation every time, so doing charity work here was just a waste of time. Ale, Naja, and Shukri could see how evil this boss of bandits was, so they put this matter on hold for now and went back to have some snacks. Ale was really enjoying the taste of chestnuts, and Woody was glad they turned out perfectly, so they should share it with everyone later. But he was worried about what to do with the bandits' situation, as they refused to eat because of their pride. He was clear about one thing now, that those guys had no backing behind them, so it was a relief no one else will be coming to target this place for now. Just then, Shukri approached Woody to ask him what he would do about those bandits, because the villagers were terrified of them being around, so they need to consider dealing with this matter soon, hearing which, Woody apologized for causing trouble. Shukri said it was fine since they recognized Woody as their lord, so they won't oppose any decisions he makes. But he wanted to ask Woody if he wished to welcome even those bandits into the village. Woody replied honestly that he wants to take them in, because he wants this desert to be a place where everyone can live happily, which includes the sand bandits too. He wanted to do so, even if it was difficult, because he didn't want to give up so easily and leave anyone behind just like his father gave up on him. But every now and then, the bandits' boss would shout that they needed to find a way out, and the others could only listen to his words, followed by the warnings of the Sword Saint Naja, who made it clear to them not to dare think of doing anything troublesome. The boss said just sitting around will drain their energy. Then other bandits suggested why don't they plead to that lord that they will never touch the village again. However, their boss hated this idea, which goes against his pride. Then the cowardly bandit spoke his mind, that if there was an option, he wanted to quit his life as a bandit and become a resident of this village. The boss was pissed off by this idea and glared at him down. But this time the cowardly bandit refuted that even if they managed to escape, it would be back to a life of hunger and poverty. So maybe it was better to serve here under the Lord and get food to survive longer. Other bandits liked the sound of it, but the boss said there was no way it would work out like that, since he couldn't trust that anyone would accept those who targeted his village to plunder everything. And if not that, he refused to think the villagers they attacked in the past would just welcome them with open arms like a fool. The cowardly bandit could see logic in his words, but he still wanted to try bowing down and plead, or try everything he could to survive. The boss called them cowards blinded by food, but the cowardly bandit replied it wasn't like that, and he just wanted to stay with other bandits for a long time, and for that he was willing to throw away his pride, his shame, or everything just to be with them longer. Sometime later, Woody planted a house tree, and Ale was so happy that she called it their love nest. Woody broke the news to her that he planted this house tree for the village chief, and they would be planting their house tree later. Neja arrived at the same time, and she was amazed by the house tree. Woody told her this house was very functional and showed her the interior, which was very cozy. Neja figured with his house tree, the villagers' living standards would skyrocket, and Ale was sure it would definitely boost their health as well. Woody never imagined that a tree like this could exist, and among the various trees he could plant after leveling up, Woody was sure this one was going to be the most valuable. However, right now there was a somewhat unsettling presence of bandits in the village, so he hoped they would feel somewhat secure and safer with house trees. Woody looked around the system in search of something else that could be useful, and after some time, the bandits were taken somewhere with blindfolds on. The boss of bandits smelled something weird, and asked others if they could smell it too, but one of them replied he can't tell with his eyes covered. The boss shouted they have a nose for smell, not eyes, and the cowardly bandit pointed out that it was smelling like burning. He thought they might be up for a public execution by setting them to fire, and the boss exclaimed to him to stop those fantasies. Then Naja came and told them not to worry, as she got good news for them. However, when the blindfolds on bandits were removed, they found themselves in the center of trees with fires on them. They were shocked, and as they looked around, there was a hut in the middle, and Woody welcomed them to try that place. The boss of bandits was too astounded from the tree on fire, and Woody told them that fire was somewhat necessary. The boss walked with confusion on his mind as he looked around and tried to think just what was going on in this village. Ale whispered in Woody's ears that the fire seems to work wonders, and he admitted it too, that this fire would surely help in keeping these bandits in check, just like how animals and monsters instinctively fear fire. Woody came up with this plan to create a circle of fire trees to create a fiery barrier to keep the bandits inside it. And next he showed them the place where the bandits will live. The boss bandit was showing resistance in going there, then Naja pushed him in between the trees, and suddenly the fire magic on trees created a barrier which burned his hairs. Naja taught him a lesson with this, and also set an example that they must not try anything funny like trying to escape. Now Ale informed them about the fruits she kept inside the hut, and bandits immediately started eating the fruits right away. They were moved by the delicious fruits that tears swelled up in their eyes while the boss opposed them trying out those fruits. The bandits told him these fruits were seriously amazing, but he asked them to spit it out now because it could be poisoned. Neja called him a fool and showed that if they really wanted to kill them, she could have done that any time rather than going through the trouble of poisoning them. Woody agreed with that and assured there were no traps here. It was just that he didn't want them to go hungry in this sanctuary. He claimed that he was just doing what a lord should do, but the bandit still didn't seem fully convinced and thought he was just making big claims. He remembers that in the past when he was just a kid, he saw his father die right in front of his eyes, and that was when he decided to do whatever it takes to survive and become a big figure before he dies. Meanwhile, Samir was flying around enjoying the grape trees, and in the way, there were house trees and light trees planted at many places in the village. Simir went to Woody's house to tell him these newly planted grapes were exquisite, and Woody was thankful for Simir's patrol as well. Simir just enjoyed the grapes and accepted the thanks. Then Woody asked Naja to take some rest, since she must be tired after dealing with those bandits. Naja was fine, but she asked if it was okay to move away from watching those bandits. Woody was, though, no longer worried about them because he made one more adjustment to the fire barrier, which should stop them from distance. Naja listened to his words and decided to take some rest, so she placed her hairs behind and lied down on the bed, asking Woody to join her to make this a long night. Woody was caught off guard by her moves on him, and Ale refused to be left behind. Simir knew this place was going to be heated, so he excused himself to go and eat world tree fruit from the tree place here. But then Woody told him this world tree doesn't bear any fruit, seeing which Simir was disappointed and asked where his fruits were then. Woody then throwed a word tree fruit in his mouth, and while Simir enjoyed the delicious fruit, Woody explained that he made some adjustments to this tree so it was different from other ones. Ale had unbuttoned her outfit to draw him in, whereas Woody kept his composure as he explained that he was planning to experiment having a world tree which doesn't bear any fruit. Simir was a bit sad to see a tree without a fruit, but Woody reasoned it was necessary to have fruitless world tree because the fruits were so precious that he didn't want it to keep an abundance of world tree fruits just like any other fruits in the village, to keep it what it was, a precious fruit. Ale could also imagine those bandits to think of world tree fruits as nothing but gold hanging around the tree. Neja could see if those bandits were to learn the value of world tree fruits, they would be consumed by greed. And for that very reason, Woody planned on replanting all the world's trees at once the next day, and other than that, he wished those bandits would give up on greed and violence. He was feeling a bit drained, as it was a thorny path to change someone's nature, and he still couldn't envision a future where the bandits repent and become good villagers. He could feel the hatred that the boss of the bandit holds, by those words of his calling this charity-like action a waste of time. Woody wondered how he could fill this huge gap between them. Then Nadja placed her hand on his shoulder and said they should start by trying what they could, little by little, and he wasn't alone in this. And other than that, Ale suggested they should think about making them help with the harvest, or spreading their water sources and creating fields, which will require labor that could be solved by making those bandits work. Woody got some good ideas and thanked those two for motivating him. Nadja stated those bandits will surely move if they push them, but Woody doesn't think they'll reform like that. It was then Simmer told them that in this sanctuary, it might not be that difficult to reform someone because this sanctuary has the power to repel evil, which not only works as a barrier against monsters, it is a power that also repels evils from the hearts of a person over time. Although a person who has been evil for so many years won't suddenly awaken as a spirit of goodness, as they spend time in the sanctuary, they will eventually begin to reclaim a pure heart. Simurg made it clear that it will take time, but there was more hope here inside than outside the sanctuary for that to happen. And moreover, there were more ways to facilitate reformation. One of them was to grant the villagers abilities, and they would later use those abilities to accelerate the process of purification of everything within this sanctuary.